want to see and hear. Okay, a lot of people are arriving. Yay. All right. Good morning, everyone. For those who don't know, I'm Jeffrey McCullough. I am the Professional Development Director on the board of ASID New Jersey, which means that the Student and Emerging Professionals Committee and the Programs and CEU Committee fall under the umbrella of my directorship. And so this is something that I'm very passionate about, Student and Emerging Professionals Week. It's an incredible opportunity for those who are either just launching their careers, or are still students at all phases of being a student, to gain very valuable tools in order to be better prepared for entering the profession. And that's really what today's program is all about. I want to first introduce or tell you who our board members are. The board members of ASID New Jersey are Marilyn Laverne, who is the director at large, Jada Ruiz, who is the student rep to the board. She is a Kane student. And I will just say, for all of you who are here that are students, if you are not graduating until May 2025 or after, you should strongly consider applying to be student rep to the board for ASID New Jersey for the 2024-2025 fiscal year. I see that Jada just arrived as if on cue. Jada, we're talking about your role as student rep to the board, which is to represent students on the board. So it's a great opportunity for a student to actually have real insight into the inner workings of an organization, and to be certainly privy to all goings on of the chapter. The membership director of ASID New Jersey's board is Paul Cerubo. The president-elect, which means that she will be president for the 2024-2025 fiscal year, is Judy Crook. And last but not least, I intentionally save her till the end so that we can welcome her and have her say a few words, is our current president of the board, Marina Umali. So Marina, I'd love to turn it over to you for a moment.
Oh, thank you. And thanks for introducing everybody. I'm so happy to see so many faces and names here. So thank you for being here today. I think this is going to be a great event, and the Zoom that's going to follow later, I think that's going to be fantastic as well. I'll be here for that. And just I'm thankful for our sponsors, our chapter sponsor, Design New Jersey, Samuelson, who's sponsoring this week's events, and Sherwin-Williams and Window Trees. So I'm just so grateful to them for sponsoring all of everything that's been happening since I believe Wednesday night. So just happy to see you all here.
Thank you, Marina. So yes, there are the sponsors for which without their support, this would never be able to happen. All of our programming is free for the 4 days of Student and Emerging Professionals Week, and that's because we have generous sponsors. But we also have a committee that works really hard to put all of this together, and I'd like to introduce them now. Mariam Abdelhamid, I'd love for you to say hello, and so that everyone sees you and knows who you are.
Hey, everyone.
So Mariam
Thank you for coming
Abdelhamid
here.
is after serving on the committee for 2 years, Mariam Abdelhamid is the chair of the Student and Emerging Professionals Committee. Other members of that committee include Nadine El-Telkawi. Nadine, would you say hello so everyone sees you?
Hi, everybody.
Yes, Nadine is also, I think, in the 3rd year possibly of being on that committee. Very, very, very devoted. We appreciate that. Jada Ruiz, our student rep to the board, also works with us on the committee. So again, she's always, her whole role is about representing students. Carrie Newman, who I don't believe could be here today, is on the committee as well. And MJ Davino, who is the chair of the interior design program at Kane University, will be actually on the panel this afternoon. So if you don't, many of you already know MJ because you're Kane students, but if you don't know MJ Davino, you will get to know him this afternoon. And speaking of that, this program that we are on now will go until about 11:45, and then we will take a break, but it's the same link for the afternoon program. So you could just step away from your computer or whatever you need to do, and then promptly at 12 noon, we will begin the second part of today's programming, which is on how to maintain a healthy work-life balance and while protecting mental health. Very important topic.
And Jeffrey, yeah, I actually was thinking about the committee. Just definitely, I'm so grateful to them as well. You guys are doing a fantastic job. So
They are really working. They've
yeah.
worked so hard and put together one heck of a few days. So yes, thank
And
you.
it's all run by volunteers. So for those who are not volunteering with us, definitely something to consider because we wouldn't have anything. I'm a volunteer as well. We all volunteer. So just something to keep in mind.
Yes, absolutely. We always need volunteers. We all are. Okay, so thanking our first sponsor, which hosted Samuelson Legendary Furniture hosted our kickoff event on Wednesday evening at their phenomenal showroom and factory and design facility in Paterson, New Jersey. Family owned for 4 generations since 1935, Samuelson Legendary Furniture proudly crafts high-end seating and case goods for the hospitality, residential, and senior living sectors. Samuelson's foundation has always been quality, service, and integrity. The Samuelson Furniture team distributes to the international market and global design community, servicing the world's finest hotels, restaurants, country clubs, and senior living communities. In this video, you have seen Samuelson Furniture at the Four Seasons Hotel in New Orleans and the Sheraton Savannah Park Senior Living Community in Maryland. So a huge thank you to Samuelson for always being a great supporter of ASID New Jersey. So now we're going to dive right in to our big topic and why we're focusing on this topic. And there are a couple of ways for you all to be interactive with this today. Number one is to put chat questions in the chat box. And number two is to ask live questions when that time comes. There actually will be about 3 times during the day's program where you can ask live questions. We have a chat box monitor, Nadine, who is going to, at the appropriate times, take any questions that are in the chat box and read them to the panelists so that they can be answered. I just hope you all recognize that what you have today is the opportunity to get any questions you have about what those who are looking to hire interior design students and or graduates are looking to see and hear from potential candidates. You have someone who has recently hired candidates for positions within her firm and is actually looking now for something very specialized. And I teach career management, professional practice, and internship prep courses. And so it is one of my specialties as a professor. So I want to dive into why this topic needed to happen today. In 2019, I attended the National ASID Student Summit, which that year was held in New York, and it was phenomenal. It was multiple days of programming for design students from all over the United States. And on the final day, there were 2 or 3 keynote presenters. One of them was the incredible firm Yabu Pushelberg, who were there to talk about design and what it means to be an interior designer practicing and particularly in the hospitality industry. But the other keynote speaker was there specifically to talk about, she was actually a talent recruiter for one of the top firms in the country. And because the age-old question for every student is, well, how am I going to get a job when I graduate? Or how am I going to get an internship if I'm currently in school? And what she said has resonated with me ever since I heard it. I have taught it in every class that I've ever taught since. And that is, she said, and I'm quoting her, "Show us you!" exclamation point. Now, I am not a person who puts exclamation points on many sentences that I write because it's usually inappropriate and immature looking. And you should not in your professional communication either. But I loved that she used show us you exclamation point, and I use it exactly as she did from that day forward. How do you show who you are to those with whom you want to work or intern, whatever it is your set of scenarios? There are a few key ways. Number one, obviously, your resume. Your resume has to be a flawless document. There cannot be one single misspelled word. There cannot be one single space issue. There cannot be one single grammatical error. It has to be a flawless document. It also has to be designed to represent who you are as a designer. And so you should think about it in terms of how every single time you put together a project for school or work, that you are telling the story of that project through your FF&E selections and all of the other specifications that come along with a project. You're telling the story of that client or that project. Your resume should tell your story. So if you use color, expect to be asked, why red? Why blue? Why green? Whenever I do mock interviews with students, if they have used color on their resume, which is 100% fine, but they need to know why they use that color, and they should expect to be asked why they use that color. Just like if you were presenting for a project, someone would say, no, tell me why you chose red for the wall color in that space. Why did you choose blue for the flooring material? So you need to be able to speak to your resume. Your cover letter, or more and more these days, the email text that you send with your resume is also the second most important way to show us you. It needs to speak to who you really are, not be filled with jargon, not be filled with language that you've seen on someone else's, and it has nothing really to do with who you are and what you can do. It also, more important, needs to speak to the role for which you are applying. So in that case, you need to show us you and how you are the right candidate for the position for which you've written this text. The third way to show us you is through your portfolio. And we have someone who has an excellent portfolio who's going to present today. But the one thing I want to say to all of you right now is I fear, and I actually know, that we have gotten very confused about the language around a portfolio. I feel like until someone graduates from design school, the word portfolio freaks them out and scares them. The definition of portfolio is this: a compilation of materials that exemplifies your skills, qualifications, education, training, and experiences. That's all. That's what a portfolio is. You have this at all points of your journey. You have a portfolio. It can be as simple as 1 or 2 projects that you've completed thus far in design school, or it can be a selected variety of space planning examples and rendering examples. That's your portfolio at the point where you are at that moment. Your portfolio is something that should be a living document. It doesn't get done once and then set in stone forever. It is going to be something that changes as you grow, as you change. So when I feel like the word portfolio scares a lot of people, especially those who are still in school, and it really should not. So I want to be here today, and I saw Kate nodding her head, agreeing with me, to say to you that you actually have this already. If you've even taken 1 class, 2 classes in design school, you have examples of work. So you're often going to hear a potential employer say, I'd like to see examples of your work. And that sends students, and I understand it. I was once a student. Thankfully, it's been a long time ago, so I don't have immediate PTSD, but I can have residual every now and then. So I get it. But it shouldn't send you into orbit because you've really got this. And so that is where you should rely on a trusted professor, perhaps, or a mentor that you have met in the profession. I will brag on someone. I witnessed this last night. She does not, I mean, yesterday afternoon, this student who is here today has no idea that I don't believe she even knows I was standing right behind her and heard her do this. But Daniela Amigon, who is a student at Berkeley, I was so proud of you at Sherwin-Williams as your professor. I was so proud of you at Sherwin-Williams when yesterday I heard you say to Marilyn, would you mind if I showed you what I have in my portfolio? I was so proud of you, Daniela. And I don't think you know that I was standing right behind you and hearing every word Marilyn was saying to you
No,
and
I
every
didn't
word.
notice you.
Well, good job, Daniela. You handled that so well. What was going on there is that Marilyn, who is the director of oversight of the DEA committee, was encouraging Daniela to submit projects for the student competition student category of the Design Excellence Awards competition, which is an event that is now open and is happening in June. And Daniela said, well, would you mind if I showed you what I have that could be possible submissions? And Marilyn said, I'd love to see. So Daniela, good job on that. Social
Thank
media
you.
presence. Now, this is important. Anytime that I meet someone new, I want to know anything about them, or I think of them. I mean, I will tell you, almost all of my students at some point, I have looked at your Instagram and your LinkedIn pages because I want to see how you are presenting yourself to the world. So that especially my students in my career management, professional practice, and internship prep courses, it would be my job if I saw there was something there that was going to cast you in a light that is less than flattering, to one day pull you aside and say, I would just like to suggest this. It would not be a reprimand, it would be a mentorship opportunity. How you present yourself on LinkedIn and Instagram is very important. And on Facebook, I'm sure too, but particularly LinkedIn and Instagram. And I wanted to say, I have seen many of you over the last few days posting about Student and Emerging Professionals Week. And I want to say thank you so much, not just because it makes our event feel so appreciated, but because it shows the world that's following you that you're an active part of the profession. You are already, as a student and emerging professional, engaging with the profession. That's so important. If someone is considering you and they go to your LinkedIn and Instagram pages and they happen to scroll back for, say, the last 6 months or so, and they don't see anything related to the profession, they might get the sense that you're not A, that interested, or B, have chosen to for whatever reason not be involved. So I just want you to understand how important that is. Of course, the interview, but you're not going to get the interview until you've got the resume, the cover letter and text, the portfolio or examples of your work. Someone's looked at your Instagram and LinkedIn and thinks, all right, this checks out. The interview I have put as number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on my list of how to show us you. And of course, the interview is very important. And then number 6, the follow-up to the interview. After every single interview within 24 hours, I suggest 2 things. Number 1, a short and simple email thanking the whoever interviewed you for the time that they took out of their day. And if they ask you to send them anything additional, or if they request anything additional from you, maybe they requested references, send that, but send it within 24 hours of that interview. And I also suggest the old-fashioned handwritten note. It goes a long way in life. It shows attention to detail, and it shows that you have really you have proper etiquette. So those are the ways I believe that you should show us you. And that's what we really want to see if we're considering you for anything. So now I want to introduce what I'm going to call our keynote speaker for today. Kate Kennedy is the founder and principal of Katie Lynn Interiors. KLI is all about breaking down boundaries and following a passion for interior design. It's about creating a better version of what was, while maintaining the value of what's always been. It's about the transformation of space, creating an identity for your home and redefining who you are on the inside. The firm is committed to transforming residential spaces into environments that clients are proud to call home. And I'm very happy to turn it over to Kate Kennedy.
Hey guys, how are you all today? Thank you for that introduction. And you talk a lot about the why and who you are as an individual. And that mission statement that you just read is my Katie Lynn Interiors mission statement that was created about 7 years ago when I started Katie Lynn Interiors. And that really is my why. It's redefining what was, and I'll explain why that's critical, and looking forward to what I can now bring to the future. I'm excited to talk to you guys today because this topic is probably one of the most special topics to me, and I'll explain to you why. I started in interior design, like I said, about 7 years ago. And prior to that, I was actually a global director of learning and development for a pharmaceutical company focused on marketing strategy, drug launches, and career development. And so the things that I did was create things like mentor circles, work with some of the best organizations in the world around talent management and how to bring top tier talent into the pharmaceutical industry. So this topic is super, I'm going to ask actually that all of you mute right now. You don't mind? Dina, I'm going to have you mute. There you go. So really, really important topic to me. I've mentored hundreds of candidates who are looking to get into the pharmaceutical industry. And now I'm so excited to be able to translate that into a different medium for interior design with you guys here today. So there's just a couple of things that we're going to talk through. I know that our time is brief. So what I am going to say is that if any of you have any questions for me, at any point in time, please, by all means, feel free. My email is going to be right here on the bottom of every slide that I show. And then I will make myself accessible. I'm always accessible on Instagram on DM. And I'm more than happy to talk through any of the topics with you that you need additional guidance on. All right, so let's get into this real quick. Let me just share my screen. So here's the things that we're going to talk through a little bit today. I'm going to talk through a key number of topics that are going to be leading you to the interview.
Kate, you're not screen sharing.
Oh, geez. Sorry about that.
I'll tell you when you are.
Now I am. Good.
There's that good graphic. Yes.
All right. There we go. Okay. So we're going to talk
Just
through.
put it in. There we go.
We good? Thumbs up?
Yep.
Okay. So we're going to talk through a couple of things today, and think about this like a cup of coffee with your friend. So we're going to talk informally about what I think, from the perspective of Katie Lynn Interiors, is critically important as you look to your next steps, look to interact with other organizations that you think you might find a future in. The first is exactly what Jeffrey was talking about. Be your own kind of beautiful. When you come to an organization, you should be representing who you are, and you should be able to find pride in that. They are hiring you just as much as you are hiring them. And so I think that's a really important message, and we'll talk through a little bit more about what that means. It's going to be really important that you're able to identify your strengths. So why should people invest in you? You bring a lot to the table. You have a great education and you're being led by incredible professors. So what are you taking away from them, and how are you going to present that back to an organization? Make it worth the investment. And then you're going to tell your story, just like we just talked about. So how can you create a portfolio that's engaging to quote unquote your reader, right? And then on top of that, I would love for you to know your audience. Who are you speaking to? And specifically, as you get to the interview process, who are you going to be interviewing with? What's their title? What makes them tick? And what is going to resonate? What type of information is going to resonate with them? For example, you may not want to share creative data with somebody from the warehouse, but you might want to show how efficient you can be in order to support them. And then also be consistent. So is your message consistent, not just along social media, but is your message consistent in the way that you format your emails? Is it consistent in the way that you format your portfolio? Is it consistent across your social media, et cetera? So that's really identifying you as a brand. So we'll talk a little bit about more what I mean by that. So first and foremost, at the foundation of everything, I completely agree with Jeffrey in that you have got to be you. If you are the right fit for a position, you are going to be the right fit for that position. And you want to be able to show up for work every day exactly who you are and uninhabited, because that's going to what's going to make you be the most successful. And the way that you do that is understand your value. It all comes down to confidence, truly, right? So knowing your value helps you trust in your capabilities. How many of you have given a presentation before where you knew all of the content and you were excited to stand up in front of the room and you were like, I'm going to nail this? That's the type of confidence that you want to be able to exude. And when you have that, you're going to be able to be a much more effective communicator. Right. And so as you become more of an effective communicator, guess what? I want to hire effective communicators. And I want to hire effective communicators because regardless of the medium, regardless of whether that's sales, marketing, interior design, if you're an effective storyteller and if you're an effective communicator, I know that you're going to be able to get the job done. So how do we identify our strengths? Right. So, and why should people invest in you? Well, the first thing is going to be the first thing that sneaks through HR and gets to my desk is going to be a good resume. Right. So a couple of things about what makes a good resume and what makes it sneak through HR, by the way. Everybody is going to see the role profile on whatever platform you're finding your information and role profiles in for new roles. You should be identifying keywords within each of those role profiles that you find online and incorporating them into your resume. Because a lot of things that are happening right now is human resources is being inundated with resumes in today's market. Right? So they're running their resumes through either an AI system or some sort of electric system. And I want to see only the resumes that are going to be relevant to the role that I am hiring for. Right? So when I'm working with a headhunter or I'm working with human resources, or even, when I'm working right now in a much smaller environment with my own assistant, I'm saying, these are the key phrases that I want. This is the type of individual that I'm looking for. And this is the skill set that should be represented. All of that is going to be written in the role profile. So you should be looking at your resume, and every single time you interview for a new job, you should be updating your resume to be incorporating the specific verbiage that's being used in each role profile for the job that you're applying for. That means that you may have 7 to 10 different copies of your resume, all for junior designer or design assistant positions. Right? So your resume is a living, breathing document. It's not something that you create once, you have someone review, and then you put away on a shelf and just hit send and resend like you did when you were applying for colleges. It's not that way anymore. So that's the first tip that I'll give you is, computers are watching. So beat the computer, go into the role profile, pick those top 5 key phrases that you see over and over and over again, and build them into your resume strategically. It will get you through to the next round. Okay, so now the 3 things for a good resume that I'm looking for. I want to see your experience. Now, I understand that can be intimidating because you're like, well, damn, I don't have any experience right now, right? I'm still in school, but you do. You have plenty of experiences throughout your life that lead you to this point. You're learning different systems. You're learning different design elements. You're learning different ways of incorporating your education into real life practice. I want to see that. I also want to see that you're showing the initiative right now to be able to obtain that. Right. So I want to see that you're not just sitting back and saying like, okay, well, I am I'm doing work that doesn't apply to interior design at all. And I'm not really gaining much experience now. Then you're not going to be the right candidate for me. I want to be able to see that even in your current role, And all of you are perfect examples of that right now, ironically, because you're all sitting here trying to better yourself and gain more education. You are legitimately the type of candidate that I am looking for, that you would spend 4 hours on a Saturday here bettering yourselves in your current field. That is the candidate that I'm looking for. And that should be represented in your resume. It shows that you care. It shows that you matter. Same thing, you know, I love marathon runners. I'm not a marathon runner. Do you want to know why I love seeing marathon running or something like that, on a resume? Because if you're going to be consistent enough to do something for 6 hours straight in your free time and put your body through hell, then the determination that you have probably makes you an appropriate candidate for me, right? So there are surprising things that show up on a resume where you look at and you're like, wow, okay, maybe, right? So take that into consideration. The next is just show growth. Now, this is the one thing that I would say I see the most of or the least of in a resume. Your resume should tell a story. So regardless of whether you're a student and building towards, what I want to be able to see is that who you were at the bottom of your resume, meaning like the furthest experience from where you are today, is less than what you are now. So I want you to be able to show growth within the progression of the roles and responsibilities that you've taken on over time. And really, that's just in the way that it's written. So you don't necessarily need to give all the goods in your first job, right? Maybe your first job may have been in a restaurant where you were a server. You might want to say that you developed great time management skills and great communication skills in that particular role. Then maybe you moved up and you got involved in the American Society of Interior Design in a emerging professionals role. Well, then I want to be able to, now you have time management, you have great communication skills. How did you apply those skills to the current role that you're in? And how did that expand? Does that make sense? And if not, we'll talk about it later. Ask me a question about it and I'll go through that a little bit more in depth. But I think this is really important because it shows growth and progression over time, regardless of the role and responsibility that you've had. And then the third thing is confidence. So how do you show confidence in something that's written? You do it by being succinct and you do it by reducing redundancy. So what does that mean? We all have those big words that we like to use in our resume. And a lot of times it's easy to love one big word and want to use it over and over and over and over again, right? Like detailed or invested in or selected or, you know, any of these words. And so you might use defining words over and over and over again. And I'm going to tell you to stop. Come up with the key phrases of really what defines what your role and responsibility was there. Be you, communicate it effectively and succinctly. Because if you're not using those same words and you're speaking on your resume, literally putting ideas down that show and exude confidence, that tells me that you're somebody who gets it. Okay. All right. So now let's say we've gotten through the resume writing process. You slipped through HR. My assistant puts your resume in front of me and you and I sit down to talk together. During the interview, I received some of the best advice in my first interview in pharmaceutical sales. And I'll tell you a little bit of a caveat story. It was an interview that I showed up to 4 hours late in the pouring rain. So I had to go down to Providence, Rhode Island to interview for a pharmaceutical company. There was a truck that jackknifed on the street and left me stranded on the street for 4 hours. In that time from New Jersey to Providence, it started to pour. I didn't have an umbrella. It was beautiful in New Jersey when I got there. The person that was interviewing me kept the office open and allowed me to have the interview. I walked into the building. It was pretty far away. It was pouring rain. So here I am 4 hours late in the pouring rain, definitely flustered, no copies of my resume and thinking that things were going to be terrible. And throughout the interview, the beginning of the interview was terrible. It was exactly what you would think. I was anxious. I was nervous. I wasn't representing myself very well at all. And thank goodness for this vice president, because he kind of stopped the interview, paused and was like, have you ever heard of the STAR principle for interviewing? And I said, no. He's like, well, I want you to take a really big, deep breath and, you know, and get yourself together. It's okay that you're late. It's okay that it was raining. And he's like, and I want you to just take a deep breath. And then I would love for you to respond to the questions that I ask you in this way. I think it's going to help you formulate your thoughts. And I think we're going to get a lot more out of the discussion together. And this is what he said. So he said, to be an interview star, you would always start with a situation. So you're going to set the scene and provide the details for the situation. The next thing you're going to do is talk about your task. So what was your specific responsibility within this situation? And then you're going to talk about the action steps that were taken. So what steps did you take to make sure that you would have a positive result? And then ultimately, you're going to share the outcomes of that result. And the results are really, really, really important. So that might look like there was a time where I was asked to speak to a group of emerging professionals. And my specific responsibility was going to be to identify what are some things that I look for throughout the hiring process. So I put together an action plan. I put together a presentation, and hopefully, right, we'll talk about it later and I'll give you the results, but it was really well received. And, everyone felt a lot more comfortable about writing their resumes and going through the interview process. That's the STAR format. It's succinct. I talked about the situation. I talked about what my tasks were. I talked about what my actions were, and I talked about my results. And so if you can train yourself to have conversations in that way, it'll help you become a much more effective communicator. And that ultimately, right, is a hireable thing to be. Okay. Okay, so how are you going to tell your story well? So now we've gotten through the interview. I've asked a couple of questions and I said, I really would love to see some of your work. Would you mind showing me your portfolio? I think your portfolio should speak to a couple of different things. It should speak to your technical skill. It should speak to your experience, and it should be organized and clean. So this is one of those other things that, when I talked about in your resume, adding in some of those key phrases, this is where clean will mean several different things to several different organizations. So I highly suggest that you go to, when you're looking at your portfolio and you're looking at how you're going to be pulling it together, yes, I want it to represent you, but I also want it to speak to the organization itself. So talk to some of the technical skill that you have. Are you, you'll see down here, I put just examples of a vision board, a floor plan, and a 2020 drawing. Right. So, and then below that, it's just copies of a mini portfolio that I had put together for somebody. So it just tells a story. And all I want to be able to see is, okay, yep, you can put together a mood board. I get a little bit of a sense of your style, but we might teach you style where I am anyway, right? It might be a little bit different of what are the things that are important to us are. I want to see that you have the technical skill to be able to put together a floor plan. I want to know that you are up to date on some of the more modern ways that we're communicating with our clients, giving them 3D walkthroughs, et cetera, et cetera. And then I want to see that in a succinct and very clean way. So while it should represent who you are, it should also represent the role that you're looking for. I know that we're going to get into portfolio, and I'm really excited to see Megan's, so I'm not really going to spend any more time on that. But if you do have any other questions about it, please feel free. All right, so then now know your audience. So who are you interviewing with and what makes them special? Before you go on any interview, you should be able to request the names, the titles, and the email addresses of the people that you'll be interviewing with. You want to understand what their titles are and what their roles and responsibilities are, because that way you tailor the conversation and make it more relevant to them. The interview is just as much about who you're interviewing with as it is about representing yourself in a positive way. And so I think that's really important. So identify who it is. You can just do that by sending an email. Typically what will happen is human resources will reach out to you, or an assistant will reach out to you, and they will say, hey, Kate, we want to schedule the interview with you. We really loved the conversation we had the other day. And are you available at 10 o'clock on Wednesday? So it's a totally appropriate response to say, absolutely. Would you mind just following up and sending me a note as to who I would be interviewing with, just so that I can tailor the conversation appropriately and make sure I'm meeting everyone's needs? Okay, that's a totally appropriate response. And it helps you be set up for success too, because then you know what you're walking into. You know who you're communicating with, you know the role that they have, and you can prepare yourself in a little bit of a different way for each of the individuals that you'll be speaking with. And then it's really, really important that you do some research on the company beforehand. You should never, ever be walking into an interview cold. You should understand the size of the company, the types of clients that they are, and most importantly, find something in that organization that makes you excited to work there. Like, what is it that about them that makes you feel like you would be an awesome, motivated contributor? And I think those are just really important things. And the last is to be consistent across all your platforms. So you'll see here, these are things taken from my social, taken from my website, and you'll see a consistent color palette. You'll see a consistent logo. You see a consistent vibe. Now, do I feel that that vibe needs to change right now? Yes. And we'll get into a little bit of a caveat there too of why, who I was hiring and what that was about yesterday. And then also what Jeffrey said too, is that as a public service announcement, employers are 100%, without a doubt, looking at your socials, 100%. And they are also speaking to Snapchat. So if they have somebody who is on Snapchat, they may even just say, hey, does someone post any of these stories on Snapchat? Do you know this individual? Blah, blah, blah. So yeah, we are spying. Absolutely. And we were spying in pharma. We're spying in interior design. We want to know that the person that we're bringing into the organization is absolutely the right candidate. And guess what? I expect to be spied on too. Right. So I totally 100% expect that you would try and hunt me down, hunt down the information about me, hunt down the information about my organization, find out things and come prepared to have a discussion. So I'll just leave it at this. It's the thing that I tell my own boys. If you wouldn't say it at the dinner table, delete it from your page. Right. Right. So, so those are, really high level, very quick walkthrough. I know of things that I look for throughout the interview and design process, but also the things that I did look through in my past. And so I hope that this is helpful. Like I said, I understand that this is so brief. So I would love to be able to respond to any questions that you have. And then we can explore things a little bit more in depth.
It was incredibly helpful, Kate. And we do have questions. Nadine, if you'll go ahead and start getting prepared to read those questions. And for those of you who are going to ask questions live, please take your take the next few moments and Nadine, you can start with your own question. That's smart. I like that. Shows initiative, doesn't it, Kate? But while you gather your thoughts, for what live questions some of you are going to ask, I'm turning it back over to Miriam to thank another one of our sponsors. So if Kate, you would stop sharing so Miriam can do that.
You got it.
So I want to especially thank our sponsor, Window Treats, for the lovely day we spent yesterday. It was amazing with them. They had a beautiful presentation by Elliot. So just to share commercial they offered us. So it was really great.
Oh no, we don't hear it, but you see it.
Yeah. Do you want me to stop share and reshare one more time?
Try, yes. But people will see it at least.
I wonder if you unplug your AirPods or disconnect your AirPods, if that would make a difference.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
All right. Yes, thank you to Window Treats. Okay, Nadine, you want to start blasting the chat box
Yep.
questions to Kate for answers?
Bring it
Yeah.
on.
So I'll start with mine, just as Jeffrey suggested. So what are some great questions to ask your interviewer when they ask you at the end, what questions do you have for us? Or if you'd rather answer the question, what are questions not to ask them?
Yeah. So that's really great. And Nadine, you and I talked a little bit about this on the bus the other day too. So one of the things that I would say is if you are being an active listener throughout the interview and you're really listening to what's being said, and I understand it's easy to be nervous and flustered, but if you're an active listener and you're feeling confident, you're going to be generally curious about some of the things throughout the interview. That may be related to the way that they do their business. It might be their design process. It might be who they're looking for in a candidate, so there are going to be things that arise throughout the discussion. And I would say, rather than have a couple of canned questions, I think one of the important things is to feel confident in yourself, because when you feel confident in yourself, then you're going to feel comfortable asking the questions that you're curious about. Now, if you're frozen and you're sitting there like, I really don't, they say, do you have any questions? And you're like, no, you answered them all. I think one of the best things that you can ask is about the organization and the design process itself. So how do they begin a client interaction? What does that look like? What does your specific role look like in that relationship? How much would you be invested in client management or client conversation? Like those types of questions. So ask questions about what your daily role would be, to make sure that this is your time to really uncover, is this going to be a good fit for you? Right. So you don't have to just ask questions to show that you're interested. Actually ask questions that matter about what's important to you. Now, one of the things that I would not mention in the first interview, one of the things that I know is probably top of mind and most important to you, is how much money are you going to make? Right? Or is there a bonus structure associated with your position versus, in a designer? What does the comp structure look like? Those types of questions, it's not the appropriate time for that yet at the first interview. So I would say take all that you can, learn all of the information that is going to be relevant to you. Who would you be partnering with on a daily basis? What does your daily schedule look like for that particular position? And also a really great question too is, what are the qualities that they're looking for outside of a portfolio that you would be? And then once they answer that question, really important that you follow up with the qualities that you represent. And, and that could look like, Nadine, you asking me, Kate, what are some qualities that you look for when you're hiring a junior designer? And I would say, I want someone who's really going to step up to the plate when I'm feeling underwater. I want someone who has a technical background and skills where I can just say, hey, can you take care of this for me? And I know that it's going to get done. I want autonomy, as much as I want to have a partner in crime in my very small little engine that could. So I think that those are some of now when I give you that information, I 100% expect a response that says, Kate, that's really great, because I feel the same way. I want to be in a position where I can work autonomously and that my creativity will be trusted. I want to be in a situation where I can partner with you and learn from you. I really want to work for a leader that is empowering and that, I feel motivated to come to work every day. Those are the types of responses that are totally appropriate to be able to say back. And I will have a lot more respect for you if you say those than just like, oh yeah, that sounds really great.
Awesome.
Right? So
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay, Nadine, if you would field Brianna, Juliana, and Ashley's questions, and then after that, I'm gonna field Alam's question. But
Yeah.
Brianna, Juliana, Adriana, where's Gabby?
All right, we'll start with Brianna's question. She says, I have a job that over several years I've worked my way up to be manager. How do I show growth in just my first job?
Oh, that's like the perfect thing. So what you would do is you take the most basic roles and responsibilities that you have. I'm assuming you're speaking to your resume. And so Brianna, what I would do is I would look at the very basic roles and responsibilities that you had. And then those, as you became manager, your roles and responsibilities became greater. Right. And so as you were hired, your roles and responsibilities became greater, leading you up to manager. So you may have started, I'm not quite sure what the role is that you're referring to. So let's say you started as a design assistant. And so 99% of the things that you were doing were fabric sourcing and, not really client interacting, but more behind the scenes kind of stuff, double checking CAD work and, all that kind of stuff. So then, you were promoted to a junior designer, right? And then at the junior designer level, you got way more heavily involved. Maybe, you were involved in some client interactions with your interior designer. You did some additional space planning. You were learning a little bit more about the industry and business, and your technical skills were growing. right? And then now as a manager or interior designer, still translatable, now you're responsible for the work of others, right? And now you're owning much more of the client interaction, you're owning much more of the design process, and you're owning the responsibility of the impact that others have on the client. So that's the type of growth and progression that I'm talking about, and that should be dictated in your resume. It's okay to have that, to have the same company and show growth. All you would do is you would tagline that as the organization, and then you would have 3 different roles within that organization, if that makes sense. And if not, Brianna, I'm happy to talk to you offline about that, and we can look at how you structure your resume.
Okay, next question. Nadine?
Okay, so the next question is, how long after a job interview, I want a little clarification on this question, Juliana. She says, how long after a job interview should you hear back? I think she means, how long after a job interview should you wait to hear back? Or,
Yeah, no, I think I agree with, I think I understand the question. You're
Okay.
excited after a job interview and you're really excited to hear back from the employer. That's going to vary by employer. So the best thing to do is in your follow-up, you're going to follow up with who you interviewed with, and you're also going to follow up with the person who organized the interview for you. So just like you would have the conversation at the end of the interview, I would say one of the greatest questions to ask, the very last question, when they say, do you have any other final questions for me? I would say, yeah, can you please identify what the next steps are? And do you consider me to be an appropriate candidate? Ask them flat out, because what's going to happen is then they're going to say, oh, you know what? Yeah, you shared some great information with me today. Our next steps are going to be X, Y, and Z. And you're going to be able to tell a lot through their response, because if they say our next steps, we are so excited, and we're definitely going to have someone reach out to you in a couple of days, that's one thing. They may say, you know what, we're working through a candidate list. There are a lot of people who interviewed for this position, so it might take us some time to get through the resumes, but at least it gives you a generalization. Then when you follow up in your email, you're going to follow up and thank the person that you interviewed with. Totally appropriate to put a call into HR, maybe 24, 48 hours later, and say, hey, it's Kate. I'm just following up. I just wanted to understand what the next steps are for the interview. And did you have any feedback for me? That's a great way of not being so eager as to like, hey, did you hear anything? Ask if there was any feedback specific to you so that you can develop for the next interview. Okay.
Great. All right, Nadine, would you read Ashley Masano's, and then I'm going to take alums, and then we're going to move on
Yep.
to the next part of our program and answer the other questions later.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
guys. I'm long-winded.
No. This is
Yeah.
amazing, Kate. Truly
Okay.
amazing.
Okay.
So Ashley asked, what if I had a job for a smaller amount of time, however, learned and grew so much within that job? How do I prove that my growth, even though it was short-lived?
Oh, I love this question. Any amount of growth opportunity is growth opportunity. I don't care whether it was 3 months, 6 months, 3 years, 6 years. You could sit at a nothing job for 3 years and do absolutely nothing. And if you are, or you do, please leave. Or you could stay somewhere where you are stretched and you grow within 3 weeks to a month and a half. Drug launches are perfect for that. Like in the middle of a drug launch, I would spend 12 months, like years rolling, working 70-hour work weeks. And then, I could work with somebody who's never launched a drug in the same exact position as me, and they don't have anywhere near the amount of experience that I do. Your experience is your experience is your experience. And the time that it takes you to gain that is somewhat irrelevant, as long as you're representing yourself in the appropriate way, you're showing that you understand the content, and that you're proving that you have the technical capability that you're claiming that you've earned in that short period of time.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to field Alam's question. The first one that Alam asked is, should non-related jobs that have no design aspect be included? 100%, Alam. Many students finish school and other than maybe an internship have never worked in the design profession. That is normal. That is absolutely normal. And anyone who is hiring is not just your design. I tell people this all the time, and I really do mean it. My students hear me say this all the time. Every student who graduates from design school is expected to have the same amount, if they've graduated from a 4-year BFA program, expected to have the same amount of technical skills and design education related elements. What will set someone apart is work experience that has helped them grow beyond what they learned in school. Someone can learn as much from being a server in a restaurant or a working in a retail. I have many students who have worked at Target. Do you know what marketable skills it is for someone to be able to go to work with the general public every day and there not be police showing up at the scene and their names ending up in the police blotter? It's incredible talent because you have to deal, it's called customer service. It's called knowing how to be the right person to handle a situation appropriately at the time. And that is what we do all the time in design firms, is handle situations that are outside of our firm. And if someone has proven talent in handling tough situations and communicating effectively, it really doesn't matter whether it was at a restaurant, at a retail store, or in an office setting. That's nothing to do with design. So 100% alum. Your next question is about portfolio, and I'm going to turn that over to Megan Maldonado. I want everyone to understand that ASID National has an annual student portfolio competition. It is the gold standard for our industry, and you all should spend time on ASID National's website later, obviously, because that competition is just closed. The semifinalists will be announced in March, and I think the finalists in April. And Megan Maldonado, who's about to present, was a semifinalist in the national, not regional, national ASID student portfolio competition last year. Megan Maldonado is a 2023 graduate of Berkeley College with a BFA in interior design. She began working for Tammy Bolden, an interior designer, in Montclair, New Jersey, while she was still in school. And after almost 2 years of working there as Tammy's assistant, she is now an assistant manager at Sherwin-Williams in Union City, New Jersey. So Megan, I'm happy to, as a former student, I'm so happy to see you here today and introduce you to the audience to talk about portfolios and how ASID believes a portfolio should be organized.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Jeffrey, for the introduction. I'm Megan Maldonado. I'm really excited to be here today to show you all my portfolio. Let me actually pull it up. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry. Okay. As Jeffrey said, I did spend about 2 years working for Tammy Bolden as her design assistant. The portfolio I'm presenting you today is the portfolio that I did submit for the ASID competition, but with a couple of add-ons. So it is the portfolio that I use to not only working with Tammy, but also it afforded me a couple of freelance positions working with other notable local firms. So let me get started. This is my opening page where you have a look at the four, excuse me, I'm sorry, the 4 projects that I have that I'll be showing you going forward. To begin, this is my designer background, and you can look over with me. So basically, it just details who I am, a little bit of background about my heritage, where I grew up, and how that relates to me as a designer. As you can see here, I am of Puerto Rican descent, and I did want to include that because part of really my entire culture is what inspires me as a designer in terms of just color and just excitement. I mean, that's really what I value as a designer. I want to bring color and texture and just everything into a space that will make you feel just excited and joyful to be in it, especially within your own home. So as you read further, I pretty much just detail that about playing with varying shapes and patterns and forms, and while trying to maintain a balanced and cohesive design. And I hope that you see that in my projects. On this slide is one of my resumes. It's the resume that I have used in the past year for my design and freelance work. And just details my education, working. I'm sorry, graduating from Berkeley College and also graduating with a world language degree, and just relevant coursework that I did while in school and some skills as well. I begin with my first project, which is actually my capstone project. It is called Island Hope Urgent Care. So it is a an urgent care facility based out of Puerto Rico and specifically in Vieques, Puerto Rico. So here on this first page, I just detail the project background, softwares that I've used, and my concept and inspiration. And for this project, my concept was about a Puerto Rican dish called pasteles. And it just inspired me for this project because, as I wrote here, this project was inspired by back in September 20th, 2017, Hurricane Maria pretty much wiped out much of what was on the island, especially specifically in Vieques, and it wiped out all their medical facilities and their main hospital. So I was inspired by this, this delicacy, I guess you can say, because it is what reminds me of home. And I wanted that feeling when you walk into the space for you to feel like home. So on this page is the floor plan of the facility, and I have it detailed, just your basic urgent care facility pretty much. You walk in and it has your waiting room, your short-term care rooms, and also workers' rooms and such, and I'll show you going forward. This is the reflective ceiling plan as well. And here on this slide, you have some renderings of the waiting area when you first walk in, as well as some of the materials used. This slide is the employee lounge that was brought to the right of the waiting area. This is one of the patient rooms. Nursing station. And in the atrium that I also designed for long-term care patients. My next project is called Next Robotics Office. So this project was actually, I did in my studio 7 class, and this project was for a competition that I'd entered. So for this project, it was to design a office for a robotics company. And the concept for this project for me, was about just the process of developing a product, or just the process for developing really anything, even just in design. So I made this over here just to show like what that process looks like for me. So the beginning process is that brainstorming, which to me looked like little bubbles that are kind of going together. The next phase is the streamlining process, which is more aligned, where everyone is doing their individual work, but it's like slowly coming together. The next phase is the organization phase, which kind of looks like a Tetris situation to me, where you're trying to fit everything together, and that's what inspired me with that. And the last phase is that phase of refinement, where everything is just all the details are being ironed out and it all comes together. Here is a rendered floor plan that we needed for the competition, so I included it here. And the floor plan follows that graphic that you saw previously. So when you walk into the office, you come in here, and one of the first spaces you come into, which is the brainstorm phase, is the cafe. And I made that the brainstorming place because it's where everyone comes together. They're relaxed, they're enjoying, but they're also bouncing ideas off of each other. As you walk down, these are the work areas where they're individually seated areas. And then you continue walking down, and these are the project rooms where everyone comes together to talk about their ideas. And then lastly is the product showrooms and where everyone comes together to just refine those last of the projects or products. This is also reflected in the ceiling plan with those bubbles I was talking about earlier. The streamlining, these are acoustic panels that are over here. Coming down, more acoustic panels that kind of have that Tetris look that I was speaking of, and acoustic paneling that gives that look of refinement that I also had in the graphic earlier. Here's some renderings and the FF&E that I chose for those spaces. So this was a steel case competition, and part of that requirement was to use their products. So that's why I just pulled out mainly those products that I used from them. These are the workstations, one of the perspectives, and this is the home office lab where they test the products. For this project, this was a project that I did early on in school. This is an EcoSpace showroom where we had to design a showroom for a notable company. So I chose the company EcoSpace. For this project, the concept and inspiration was that of the sun and sun rays. I chose the sun and sun rays because to me, I understood that without sun, without light, we wouldn't be able to see. We would be able to see the colors around us, right? Everything would be very dull. So I really wanted to focus on that and showcase that. So I have this graphic here that shows kind of how I broke that down in the design process. And then this aerial shot here of like how that is depicted in the floor plans. Here is the official floor plan, and as well as some of the FF&E that I chose and some of the flooring and also wall colors. So this project, it was based in a mall. So there are 2 entrances that you see here, and therefore like 2 reception areas. And the main portion is the showroom itself. And as well as like a mini juice bar and the workstations in the back. And here are 2 perspectives, interior perspectives for the reception. One of the entrances where you walk in, that was more toward the left, and where you can see the hallway where the work areas are, as well as that juice bar I was speaking of, and then these entrances into the showroom. And this is the perspective of the showroom. And also we were also to design an exterior perspective as well. So I have this sketch rendering that just is to show that the exterior is glass and it has like a stained glass feel to it. Finally, this is my pixel townhouse that I did Studio 3 for Residential 1. This project was about a couple with 2 children, and there were art collectors, and they frequently hosted a lot of gatherings. So that inspired me to think of the idea of pixels and the idea that everyone in a home has their own personality, their own desires and everything. So they reminded me of pixelation, like on a TV, where it has like all these different colored pixels, but they all come together and they form a beautiful picture, right? So here I should show the inspiration and also my design process to how I designed also specific features in the home. So here are the ground and second floor plan. So the ground floor is just the entrance pretty much, and you walk up and you have the second floor, first floor, where you walk into the dining room space, the kitchen space is over here on the right, and it's open concept. So on the left is the living room space, and moving upward is the third floor where they have a gallery that overlooks the living room, open office space, and the main bedroom. Going up another floor is the children's suite, and they have a play area in the center and then 2 bedrooms on either end. Here are some renderings. So the top one is the living room perspective, and the bottom is the balcony that overlooks the living room. For this project, I was very inspired by mid-century modern. It's one of my favorite eras of time. So I really went in with that and chose a lot of famous pieces. here are two perspectives of the kitchen on either end. They're also wine collectors, so there's a huge wine wall on this side. These are the dining room perspectives. So it was one of the features that I told you earlier that I designed with that pixelation. So this is just a mirror wall, has also shelving built into it. And then over here in this perspective, you have a sculpture piece essentially that starts from this level and it goes all the way up to the last level. It also has some shelving built into it as well. And this is just some more equipment that I chose, just an overview, really. And that is all.
Megan, thank you so much. So I want to reiterate to everyone, because I know you have questions about portfolios, and we're getting lots of questions, which is amazing. It makes me so happy. But what I'm going to do is actually, I'm going to share questions that we don't get to today with both Kate and Megan. And I will also take some of them, and we will all try to answer your questions, probably by email. I want to say that Megan did follow, as is the gold standard for our profession, when you are coming out of school, the ASID National Portfolio Competition. Ahlam asked a question, which was, how long is a too long portfolio? Well, I would tell you that along with ASID National, they only allow for the competition up to 20 pages for 4 projects for each for that portfolio. If you think about, but you're going to take a class, Alum, at Kane University that's taught by Linda O'Shea, who is Kane's resident expert on portfolios. So she will have guidelines on that as well. I happen to teach the portfolio class at Berkeley and have taught that class since 2018. And we use the ASID National Student Portfolio Competition, and fortunately, every single year we've had at least one semifinalist in the national competition. So I think it's worked pretty well. So there are guidelines out there. But the key element is, just like your resume, you need to make sure that your portfolio is ordered in relationship to the job for which you are applying. So if you're applying for a job with a residential firm, you don't put your residential project last. You lead with your residential projects. Oh, sorry, Megan, you can stop sharing. Thank you. You lead with your residential project. If you're applying for a commercial position, you lead with your commercial projects. So it's just like the resume, living, breathing. Megan said that she's used this portfolio to not only get her, well, when she applied for the work job with Tammy Bolden, she was in her last year of school. So she didn't have what you see in front of you right now. She probably had 2 projects or maybe 3 to show Tammy at that point. But then, obviously, just like a resume, it was a living, breathing document that changed as Megan progressed with skill level and through other projects. And she's used it in different formats for freelance work and the job that she currently has. So Alam, it really does depend on what it is you're applying for. And I always say to students, make sure that you don't just keep it in the order it was in the last time you presented it, because if a residential designer sees that, oh, you're showing them as commercial work, they're probably going to look at you at the end and say, well, if all you have is commercial work, are you sure you don't want to apply for a commercial firm? Is there anything you can show us that shows that you have any knowledge of residential spaces? And also, why didn't you lead with that?
Can I just jump in there real quick?
Go
Because
ahead.
it's relevant to yesterday. So just so that you guys know, I interviewed a candidate last night for, I'm looking for help for social media and website, right? So this person came forward with their resume that mentioned a significant amount of projects that they've worked on. They're still in school, that they've worked on relevant to the space. Their portfolio that was 1 page long, which I appreciated, but didn't have any social media. So it was a great image of a self-portrait. It was some great artwork that they had done, but nothing related to what they were describing in their resume.
Wow.
And that's part of that, like, consistency right, that I was talking about, is have consistency across all your platforms. So I actually gave her the feedback to say, you know what, it would be so great to see in your one pager what you've identified in your resume. So giving her the opportunity to send it to me, but I have to be honest, she's probably not going to get the job, because for someone that I wanted for a visual representation, to miss a mark like that just speaks to, she's probably going to miss that mark too on my website or on my socials.
Right.
So
good
anyway,
point.
sorry, just relevant to what you were just talking about. So
Thank you. So we are now going to hear from a couple of other major players in the field of interior design in New Jersey. We're first going to hear from a national industry partner for ASID, and we're going to hear specifically, which is RH, and we're going to hear specifically from Virginia Liberato and Richard Gorski. Richard is the Director of Talent Acquisition for RH in New Jersey. And they have some very good advice for anyone who is preparing for interviews or wanting to apply for a position. And then after that, we'll hear from Blanche Garcia, who is an award-winning interior designer in the state of New Jersey, who also has tips. So Kate, if you'd go ahead and play RH, and then directly after Blanche. Thank you.
Kate, you're muted. I think that's why we're not hearing the sound.
Oh no, we're not hearing.
gotcha. It's okay, no one talked
Hi,
yet.
my name is Richard, and I am the People and Design Leader here at RH Galway Short Hills.
And I'm Virginia. I'm the residential trade leader here in Short Hills as well. We're so excited to be supporting ASID New Jersey Student and Emerging Professionals Week.
And we're going to talk to you a little bit today about what we look for when we're hiring interior designers.
I don't know what's happening. We hear nothing.
Really?
Yeah, we hear nothing.
We have 3 different fields of business that we look
I don't know. It worked before. Hold on.
to hire interior
Still
designers
nothing?
into.
We're hearing them now.
Business, our trade business, and our interior design business. Our gallery business is focused on our end client, who is coming in looking for more product specific needs, as well as smaller 1 to 2 room projects.
And our residential trade business is geared towards interior designers, architects, contractors, anyone who's using our product for their projects.
And our last field is our interior design business, and this is focused on clients who are looking for full-scale design services, anything from multi-room to whole home designs, that team. So at RH, because we believe deeply that the right people are our greatest asset, we do have a multi-step interview process that does include at least 3 or 4 meetings with different leaders, as well as an RH candidate design project. The design project is really focused around understanding a client profile, reading through what we call our RH design ethos, which illustrates the way that RH designs. And really taking creative leeway to put together a design that you would feel be appropriate for those specific clients.
One tip to share when going on an interview, whether it's RH or any interview that you're going to, be well prepared, research the company, know what questions to ask, and really show that you have done your homework prior to the interview.
So the last part in our decision before moving forward with any interior designer to join our team is always going to be focused on the right person, the right role, and the right time. We always think it's super important to realize that while you might be the right person and it might be the right role, the timing might not be the best. So it's always important to make sure that you're connecting and staying connected with whoever you may be reaching out to or interviewing with. Just, you never know, it could be 6 months down the road, it could be a year that an opportunity would present itself.
That's a really great point, and also to keep your network open, connect with your professors, past professors, colleagues, anyone you may have interned for. It's a great way to continue to know of opportunities out in the industry and also to build your network, which will benefit you in the future. We're so excited to be a part of ASID New Jersey's Student and Emerging Professionals Week.
And consider us part of your network now too, and we hope to see you soon.
Bye.
Okay, Kate, now if you'd share the Blanche Garcia.
Yep. I'm getting there. Am I still sharing or no?
You're not.
Sorry.
And I'll share those videos. They're really actually good, very good quality videos. Not sure what's going on with the Wi-Fi situation, but I will share those videos with everyone who's in attendance.
Okay, here we go. Here's Blanche.
Blanche Garcia here, owner, principal of B. Garcia Designs. We are located in Little Falls, New Jersey. Recently just moved over from Montclair. And what am I looking for, let's see, those who apply for a position at our firm? Okay, so here we go. We do get quite a few new designers that are emerging professionals or those who have been on the field. I really do try to, we're a small firm, by the way, we're probably about 4 to 5 of us, and we work primarily on hospitality, commercial. We just recently transitioned over from doing residential as well, but we are focusing this year on our hospitality and commercial projects. And I would say that a few things that I look for. One is that obviously we want somebody who's creative and who really thinks out of the box. I think that just like when I was joining the field, there were a billion designers that were out in the field as well as me looking for work. And everybody has the same bones in a way. So that's not really going to differentiate you from somebody else. But the things that will set you apart is how are you able to think outside the box? Are you able to be a go-getter and, you know, have initiative and do things and go after things when it's not asked of you and you're just kind of stepping up on your own? That really goes far because you can't really teach that. And just having good instincts and knowing like when to jump in and when to, you know, take up a task or when to offer your assistance, that type of thing. When people are coming to me looking for work, I always appreciate everything looking great, meaning like the cover letter, an email, you sound professional, you know, you've put all of your stuff in order, you know, your portfolio, believe it or not, you do look at the portfolio, but I'm looking at the style of the portfolio more than I'm looking at the exact details. Because with the details of a portfolio, you could have done that with 50 other people and you could have spent the past year, 2 years doing that. So anybody who spends more than a few months on something and has outside assistance and people that could have jumped in to help with some of the projects, it better look amazing. There better not be one mistake because there's so many people that are involved and you have had so much time. Whereas in the actual design world, the real world, our projects are moving so quickly. So you're having to do that level of beauty and kind of attention to detail has to be there, but in a very short amount of time. But somebody who really goes out and above, like, are you calling after you send your resume? Are you calling places and design offices and studios that you don't see are even looking for designers? Because maybe they are looking and people go internally first before they go externally. So that's a, you know, kind of a big deal. Following up. So if you do check in and maybe it's a no at first, are you going to follow up in a few weeks, a couple of months and just say, hey, I just want to let you know I'm still available, or maybe there's another creative way that we can work together, or that type of thing. So you really have to keep hustling and keep putting yourself out there. The other thing I would say is that just make sure that when you interview that you are talking and you're asking questions and you've done some research on the design company. So I always love when somebody knows a little bit about what we do and who we are and our culture. Because we are a small company, it's not only that you're a great designer and that you're creative, it's also about your energy and are you somebody who is going to be an asset energetically to our family? Like, are you somebody who's outgoing and a positive person and really is going to help uplift the group, because we have a good time and we have really like become a family. So we always make sure that we have each other's back, that we're a team player, that we're always rooting for one another. And, you know, so those type of qualities are really important. And so I'm always looking for somebody who really is a team player, who is looking at the glass half full. We always are looking for solutions, not problems. And so that's a really important quality, believe it or not, you know, a well-rounded person. So I really like to know something about the person themselves, and what their dreams and hopes are. And if our firm is a good fit for that, or if we are just filling in kind of like an open spot in your life just because you need to fill it. I'm going to pick up on that pretty quickly. So I would say go after companies that you feel really connected to or passionate about. As many no's as you're going to get, you're going to get a bunch of yeses. And honestly, all you need is one. And you want to get the right fit, because if you get the right fit, you're going to be with that company for a pretty long time. If you're just filling in the gap for just to get anybody, you're going to be disenchanted pretty quickly, or they're going to move on pretty quickly. So you just want to make sure that you are searching with intention and with purpose, and you're just really going for it. So I hope this helps in your job search and putting yourself out there, because I love design. I have loved design for over 28 to 30 years that I've been doing this. It's so crazy. And there's so many different avenues. And every time I think like, wow, like, what am I going to do now? I'm a little bored, or it feels a little stale. There's always something else that is within the design world that I'm able to kind of like run with. So I hope that you have as beautiful as career as you want, and you really go out there and you just make it your own, because it is your own and you get to make what you want.
All right. You all are so fortunate. We're going to wrap this up now. Let me tell you what's happening. Nadine Al-Talkawi, our wonderful committee member and volunteer, is screenshotting all the questions in the chat box. She's going to send those to me by email, and then I'm going to share them with Kate Kennedy and Megan Maldonado and ask each one of them to respond to them directly with the person who asked them. This is how you begin conversations with people that may play major roles in your career going forward. And it certainly shows initiative. So if there is a question that you would like answered that you didn't get answered today, that you've not already put in the chat box, please take a moment right now to put it there. I want to thank Megan Maldonado. I know she needs to go, for sharing her wonderful portfolio with us. A huge thank you to Blanche Garcia, and Richard Gorski and Virginia Liberato, and an overwhelming amount of gratitude for Kate Kennedy for being our keynote today, and really sharing a wealth of knowledge with everyone. I'm going to turn it over one more time to Mariam Al-Dami to thank our final sponsor and share that video with us.
Yep. We just want to thank them so much. Yesterday we had a lovely time with them, and especially with Melissa, who gave the presentation about Sherwin-Williams. If you want to lower your volume a little bit, the video is a little bit high in volume, so you're not
And I think that's a very fitting closing for this first part of today. And upward, isn't that where you all want to go on your professional journey, is upward? Okay, we are going to this first part is finishing. I'm going to stop recording for this first part.